Okay, folks, I have another warning for you. This episode has lots of cussing. You've been warned. Now, let's get to today's episode. Welcome to Planet Noun, where it's all about the people, places, things, and ideas that teach us, prompt us to make a difference, and do more with what life presents. I'm excited about this one. Actually, this one and another episode that we're dropping next Thursday, a week from today. Planet Noun's first collaboration ever. And it's with Liliana and Tamara of the Barely Bougie Mamas. It's a podcast. Now, a capsule-sized explanation of their cast. It's about two moms who grew up in poverty, but they've crafted lives for themselves and their kids that are totally different from their own upbringings. Now, my sister and I joined them at Liliana's home in Southern California for some kiki-ing and some questions. And if you don't remember my sister Lea, she was a guest on episode 9. That was the one talking about an ailment that we both share, uterine fibroids. You can check out episode 9 to find out more about that. Now, a little background. Tamara and I met the afternoon this was recorded. It was in early October. Now, Liliana and I, we grew up together, and my sister and I have known her for years. A matter of fact, we go so far back, I actually don't remember when we met. I've just always known her. So anyway, that's enough intro, and let's get to the show. Guests, Liliana and Tamara of Barely Bougie Mamas, and also my sister Lea right here on Planet Noun.
I think the first time I heard about the idea about this particular topic, I think you sent me a text message. And you said you had an idea for an episode.
Oh, an episode.
And then later on...
that's right.
Yeah.
So Liz started her podcast last summer. Mm-hmm. Is when I first found out about her podcast. And I was like, ooh, you know what would be a really good conversation to have is with ghetto moms who have now made it out, air quotes, of the ghetto and are raising kids in the suburbs. And the challenges we face by not knowing how to deal with these fucking, kids that are allowed.
Planet Noun doesn't cuss.
well, there's some cursing in there. There's some cursing in there.
But no,
I usually bleep out N-words.
Liliana doesn't.
But
you bleep out N-words?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
See, you was going to get on your high. She's about to get up on the high horse.
Okay.
She had her leg kicking over to the high horse.
Just talk. Do you?
Look, I was like, Liliana about to drop off because she quick for a big old MF. She'll drop an MF and I'll be like, oh, God, that was a big one.
MFs can say. MFs can say.
Listen.
N-words, I just bleep. But people know what it is. So I make sure they know what it's going to be.
I bet you'll miss some of mine.
That's okay. If I do, well.
Silent in the background.
Ooh, that's too much. I gotta publish.
So I approached Liz about it, and we had a fairly long conversation about whether or not what the episode should look like. And before that, Tamara and I had discussed having a podcast, but we was like, what are we going to talk about?
Oh, I remember that conversation.
Yeah, remember it was on the playground after school when you were picking up. So that's kind of where the germination of the seed for the podcast started.
So where did you two meet?
At school.
Oh, okay. So your kids went to the same school?
Our kids went to the same school.
Okay.
Not even that they played together.
Mm-hmm.
We were just the few black parents, and then we were the kind of people that made sure we knew each other.
Oh,
and
okay.
Liliana is kind of a busybody at that school, at that particular school. She was very active, and she made sure that everybody knew her, or you knew her.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not to say, okay, so I'm going to own the busybodiness.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I made sure to do was make sure to make contact with all the black parents, all the black moms. If you listen to our last episode, Barely Bougie Mamas, about the mommy mafia, I was a little bit crazy with black moms. I'd be like, hey, how you doing? Where you going? Right?
Listen, you understand. Look, she hasn't said no. She was like, no, I get that shit. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the ways we connected. And then our kids didn't even like each other.
Hey, just didn't know each other or didn't like each other?
No, the kids were in the same class.
Mm-hmm. She has a boy and I have a girl. And in kindergarten, that makes a difference, right? Boys play with boys and girls play with girls. So
that's true.
There was that. But then there was also Yeah, no.
They just didn't. And then once they got older into like a first and second, they didn't gravitate towards each other.
Oh, okay.
They didn't not like each other, but I remember saying, are you going to invite Irene to the party? And he was like, who's that? I was like, damn. I was like, Miss Awari's daughter? Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, wow.
So
He knew you. Miss Busybody. That lady,
So-
oh yeah.
So gravitating to each other.
Yeah.
So it was, okay, first of all, the black factor. Making
Right.
sure you knew all the black parents. Now, aside from that, like, what kept you gravitated to each other? Because, you can meet and you can be like, okay, she a black parent.
Okay,
but
so
I don't
for
like her.
me, because I'm very stuck up.
Okay.
I don't fuck with a lot of people. Like, I'm very...
But
like
why does it have to be stuck up, though?
Well, the bouginess of it, because it's rude sometimes. Because, like, I'm very nice, but then at the same time, if I don't deal with you, I just don't deal with you. So,
I don't let the people do that to me.
that's probably true. I don't know if I even tried to ice you at all. I can't remember. Because she just always stayed. She had too much information for you not to talk to her. That was one of the things. So number one, for me, as the new parent onto the campus, and I wasn't staying in the area anymore, all kind of things had happened. So for me, she was the source. She was the plug. So if she got the plug to the principal and whatever, I'm going to stay fucking with her. But she's also married to an African man. I'm married to an African man.
Oh, yeah, that
Those
was another.
African men conversations,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah. That was another. I forgot about that.
Nah,
Yeah.
I don't forget. So that for me, that was the thing that kept us coming back together. To me, that's what made it where I didn't have to stay. Because there's a certain way that you act with other parents, right? Like.
You have to put on some kind of
It's
airs.
a little bit of a front. It's not exactly the front that you put on when you go to work. Like the cross, what is that called? The not context switching, the
Code switching.
code switching. So it's not the same code switch that you do when you go to work. But you don't know these people. They're legit just strangers, and your kids are in the same class. So you don't give them all of your thing, all of you. So so us having African husbands and the jokes that we were able to have made it like, okay, I could tell you the truth.
Right.
Sort of.
Kind of.
From time to time. She's still learning things. Truths are still coming out.
Well, and I feel like I have learned in my old age not to be judgmental, right? Like, probably 25-year-old me would have been like, I ain't fucking with that bitch. She is just too much, right? Or whatever, for whatever reasons. But, I'm like, now at this point, again, our kids are in the same class. We are both black parents. And she was an advocate for all of the kids, not just the kids in the specialized program, which I was as well. So I was like, okay, so she's not completely all about her and getting for her. She's more about, what's that? Each one, teach one. Kind
Equality.
of
I speak for all the kids that are impoverished.
Say what you were gonna say.
No, that's how I cuss. I censor myself in cussing. So you'll notice the only cuss word I say is hard. The other ones I can censor I'd be like, he said that ish, and I was like,
I don't censor myself when I cuss.
no, you don't.
But I have realized, this is a side note, that I don't cuss at people. I cuss when I'm speaking, but I don't say, "What the fuck you doing, bitch?" Right? Like I don't.
You don't talk, yeah.
When I'm like, this motherfucker, listen to what happened, and
It's in your storytelling.
yeah, it's a part of my narrative. It's not necessarily a part of like.
I think mine is the opposite. I
Yeah.
can cuss someone out.
Yeah, I don't.
So
cuss
when I
people.
use curse words, I'm coming for you.
right,
Matter of fact.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
If I'm using curse words, we're getting it in. Or I'm upset. So what is that Malcolm X thing? You only use curse words when you don't have enough words in your vocabulary to express yourself, something like that. That shit really took to heart to me back whenever
You read
Malcolm
that.
X came out. You know I seen the movie, bitch. Don't try that. I bought the book so that when would come over, they would see it. And they would be like, I had that one. I had Message to the Black Man. I had the autobiography of Malcolm X. The autobiography of Elaine Brown. They Came Before Columbus. I can tell you all the books that you have in the 90s.
Right.
You're a nice, conscious dude.
Oh my gosh. So when did you realize that, okay, you have the conversations about African husbands, and that was the link that kind of kept you all together. When did you start realizing that, hey, we have similar backgrounds growing up, and now our children have similar backgrounds, but their backgrounds are not like the way we grew up.
Ours.
Yeah, they're being raised, in a different way for whatever reasons.
Well, probably around so we started knowing each other in kindergarten, when the kids were in kindergarten. So probably around 3rd grade. Oh, I know when. I know exactly when. When she had to move from the Pasadena area.
Yes, that's when our connection came, because I had to be honest with somebody and be like, I can't afford to stay here anymore.
Right.
I am priced out. My mom had a stroke, so she was now living with us. I'm married. My husband had been laid off, and so he was changing his whole career. And I was working a basic-ass job. And no disrespect to people working basic jobs, but because it was making my money.
You were
I was living, and I was, but I wasn't able to save anything. There could not be any emergency. Anytime, if I got a flat tire, I had to call somebody to let me borrow $200 or something to be able to really get it in. So being able to talk to somebody and just be honest, my son's going to be late to school because we're now driving 60 miles to get here. And somebody being compassionate about it.
Right.
That's really what it was. And then when you started working at the school,
oh yeah,
that too changed it, because it was like, why are you working here?
Right. And people, when I started working at the school, people assumed it was because we needed the money. And yes, I did need the money.
Amen.
Because that's what I use. But essentially that's what we use for extracurricular activities for the girls. But what the real reason I started working at the school, because in the same vein, I could have gone and started a professional job in corporate America. The real reason was because I wanted to keep an eye on these motherfuckers.
You're so crazy.
So when she found out I was working at the school, she was like, okay, so keep an eye on these motherfuckers for my baby too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it got like that, because now I'm coming from 60 miles away. If something happens at that school,
get there in 10 minutes.
No,
right.
so I can, because what happened is I kept them in the school out here because I still worked out here. So my job was still out here. The kids were in school out here. But no matter how much money I was making, I could only afford to live 60 miles away.
Right.
So I would always have to go to work. She would know what parents would be there, who could watch the kids at the school until I got there. She would be like the intel of what was going on.
Right.
And then I would make it a point to find her because she works there. So if I'm at the school at any time of the day, I'm like, where's she at? And I go find her.
A couple of times over the loudspeaker, bitch, I got a job. I got stuff to do. I come in the office, yes. Oh.
But see, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know that that's how they would do it.
Yeah,
I would just tell somebody in the office, like, yo, where's Liliana? I went to the computer lab. She ain't there.
Right, because that's where I was supposed to be, and I was off doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing.
But that goes back to them bitches being so intimidated by me that they would just go ahead and get on the loudspeaker and call somebody, because that's real extra. But just because I asked where somebody at, you could just say, I don't know where she is. I can leave a message. Because that's what I would have said. I would be like, I don't know where she is. What you want me to tell her when I see her?
Right.
Okay, thanks. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, you need Elizabeth? Hold on.
Over the loudspeaker. Excuse me. Now, going back to, I know some of the episodes, Barely Bougie Mamas, you talk about the differences in how you were brought up. And so I know, growing up in LA, you said you grew up in, I know in the episode we were listening to.
Oh, you listened to an episode? How cool. I grew up in La Puente.
La Puente, okay.
I'm from the, what is that? Is that the suburbs? If you guys are from LA, then I'm from the Valley.
Yeah, we can call it the Valley.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're still very much California people, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My grandma lived off 102nd in Maine.
We passed that to go home.
Okay. Sometimes after dark. Okay. Navigating the whole city landscape. So I know some of the times we would catch the bus past Nickerson Gardens after dark, like in high school.
Right, yeah.
And we knew how to navigate. We were still sheltered. The way we grew up was still very, very sheltered.
Are you Seventh-day Adventist and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how we grew up now. Yeah. You've probably been to church more times this year than I have.
But you know, that's a whole.
That's
Listen
a
to
whole
the
conversation.
expectations episode.
Oh, okay.
Of Barely Bougie Mamas.
Find out more. Okay.
And so just like navigating the areas, like when it was after I was an adult, I realized that wow, some gangster.
Yeah, it was pretty
really,
dangerous.
Yeah, it's
environment.
Like the area where I can't remember, like, different sets of the Crips. They came together at the theater on, like, Imperial.
Oh, Nickerson Gardens was...
That's east
it was, like... That's scary. Like, so of the 80s and the 90s, like, when we grew up, if I said something about Nickerson Gardens, that's scary. Like, I'm from West Covina, La Puente. It's so...
Far from...
Valley and suburban. In 92, where were you guys when those riots took place?
So the riots started on Florence and Normandy.
You said smelling smoke. See?
Right? And you guys grew up on Western, which is one
Western.
block east of Florence and Normandy?
We were...
No,
it's less than a mile.
It's less than a mile. It's about, less than a mile.
Less than a mile, but we're, like, southwest of that.
Florence and Normandy, we're going to use that again. I grew up on Florence and Crenshaw, which was probably a mile east of
Yeah.
Flashpoint.
So it's totally different.
Yeah.
Because you guys experienced that, right? I watched that on the news.
Right. No.
And we just were like, oh, we can't go to LA. We can't get on the 110. Can't get on the 10. Can't get on the 110. We're not going that way. And then that was just the end of it. My neighborhood was more a black kid being found beat down.
Right.
Because he had got jumped by some Mexicans or stomped out. I grew up where it was like, oh, if you got into a fight with a Mexican girl, you're going to fight her for the rest of your fucking life.
Right.
And so it was like, when you fight her, do you fight her or do you just let her beat you so that I don't have to fight this girl
every week,
every month?
Yeah.
So I guess it was the same type of foolishness.
It was
but I was all up
foolishness.
in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Y'all was like,
We weren't in it.
We were well, because you're saying you're going to get beat up. It was a whole different level of violence.
yeah, you're talking about getting murdered.
Yeah.
Not like
yeah.
you guys getting murdered, but
Like,
in
If
that
you,
time
if
period,
you
people...
decide, if you decide to jump into that shit, just know that you are
Yeah.
changing your life
long.
expectations.
Yeah, yeah. And
expectancy,
ours was just race.
Right.
It was legitimate just race. You're going to get into fights because you're the black kid in this Mexican neighborhood.
Wow.
You're going to get into fights.
Y'all
So
have, like,
in stark contrast
In stark contrast.
to how we're raising our children,
Right.
like I don't even know that my kids have ever been in a actual physical fight at school, like or even seen one at school.
anyone like ever just tease them or push up on them just because, like, in a violent sort of way, not just using words, but in a violent way.
Yes. See, look at that. The Mexican girls were trying to bully my oldest daughter, and she has always been like tall, and one of the little girls, the smaller Mexican, more petite girls in 2nd or 3rd grade, just kept poking at her, and finally she punched her in the face. My daughter punched her in the face.
That's what's up.
Yeah, that's exactly. And so right, like and then they went and told the noon aide, which still tells you that our school is a little bit ghetto, but the noon aide was like, well, you should have left her alone. And walked away, right? So I guess that's not true, that they have been in altercations, but the oldest one, not the other two, and that was kind of an extreme situation because
It took a lot for her to get to that point.
exactly.
My son won't hit nobody,
Even if they come for him?
even if they fucking come for him. And I be trying to tell him, you better punch that back. Like, you need to hit him back. And he'll say something like, I can't beat him up though. Like, cause this particular kid was bigger than him. He was like, I mean, I don't even know if he was bigger, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think his presence was bigger because he was so hood as a little kid. No. the little light-skinned hood one that used to punch him in the balls.
Oh. What are we talking about?
That deserves a beat
Okay,
down.
wait. Hold on a second. Oh, but was fucking...
Edit the name out.
Edit the name out.
Yeah, no.
The beat.
Yeah. Wait.
See? That's why.
That little boy better stop.
No,
Messing with folks.
he's not gonna.
Why not?
Because he is actually pretty violent. He is pretty.
So your kid was just being logical.
And so that's the part. Like, I think my son was being smart. He's like, I can't beat him up. He's going to keep coming for me if I try to do something. So, no, I'm not going to hit him back.
But
I'm going to just go tell.
But that's the opposite of a ghetto kid, right? Because, like, if we grew up in a ghetto and you keep getting bullied, then you go get your cousin, your uncle, your friend down the street. Like, you go get your gang to come and beat up his gang. That's kind of what it would be. But our kids are like, no, I'm just going to go tell because violence doesn't.
I mean, I blame it all.
You see something, say something.
You see? That's what I'm saying. Wait, so no, let's talk about this bougie shit. My son is now going to a charter middle school. And so all the fucking charter school kids have cell phones. And so on the first week of school, it's like, okay, everybody get your phones out. We're all going to download an app. So they downloaded an app. And it was a bully reporting app. So if you're seeing something, you say something. So it's an app that says...
It's a snitching app.
It's a snitch app! It's a snitch app! And so I tell him, I said, wait, so all the kids have this? He was like, yeah. And if something happens and you feel like something's happening, you can just tell and nobody knows. And I was like, so they want y'all to just snitch on each other? And he was like,
I bet they don't get stitches, though.
I don't get stitches. I mean, so I told him, that's cool, but that's totally different
Then
than our childhood.
And the mentality, like first of all, you see something, you turn the fuck around and walk away. You get away before somebody that gonna ask you questions come around.
Okay, look, you see something? No, I didn't.
I
Can't even hear.
See what? See what? You start looking, my eyes don't even work like that.
I was all the way over there.
Okay. Good job. So what about dealing with, I just remember some of the situations we had. The drunk people on the street, crackheads. I use crackheads loosely. Anybody who was,
drug addicts, basically,
drug
all
addicts.
of them.
And I remember this. I think he was a Vietnam vet. He had lost his legs. He was in a wheelchair. He would talk dirty to the young ladies, walking by. Stuff like that. Like on Imperial and Avalon, I remember that's where he was. And do they even deal with any of that?
Wow,
Do
no.
they even know how to maneuver past?
No, you
the
know what? If
crackheads?
they saw him,
Ask
they'd
them
be
for
like,
money?
"Can we give him some money?"
You know what? Listen, let me tell you. Here, that's so funny. That's so funny. Because one time we were in the car, and my husband's daughter, who's older than my kids, like 3 or 4 years older, and we driving, not walking. It's not the same. So, it's not the same.
Right.
Y'all was walking past stuff. Anybody walking past nothing. We driving. But so we're driving, and my husband made sort of like a joke. He was like, oh, whoop, whoop, da, da, da. And she's like, are you making fun of someone less fortunate? And I was like, the fuck? That's a smoker.
I'm making fun of the crackhead. I'm making fun of someone who made a worse decision. That's what I'm making fun of.
No, but you know what? It really set me straight because I was like, and that's why my kids are so fucking bougie. Because she was older than my kid. So when I seen that, I was like, that is the right way to think about it. Because I don't know what got them into that circumstance. Mm-hmm. So they are someone that's just misfortunate. And that is what I really want my kids to know and understand. They should still protect themselves around anyone that looks a little dangerous. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I don't know why that person is like that. So they should have compassion. So, but they're still bougie. But they have the compassion for people. But they've not experienced anything like that. My kids don't walk.
Okay, look, you should have seen her facial expression. My kids, I can't even describe it.
what?
What are you talking about?
Right.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
I think we talked about it on our podcast because we traveled recently. This is some bougie shit. We went to Europe on a European summer vacation.
Oh, nice.
With my all black ass family in Europe. And
See, nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
no, absolutely nothing wrong. It should be a trend and the norm.
Amen.
So I wish that on to everybody listening, that you travel with your family and just be black as fuck in every place that you go. But so we're walking,
Okay.
right? So when we're walking, and I realized, oh, my kids don't know that it's real when we say stay on the fucking sidewalk. You can't.
They
race.
think it's a suggestion.
They think it's a suggestion, so they're walking and they're like skipping, arms are flailing, and like we're on vacation. And I'm like, get out of the road, get out of the road.
Stay to one side.
Stay to one side, stay together.
Yeah.
Right.
We're gonna make it.
Yeah. Throw the hat in there. They think they do it.
So yeah, we need to work on walking. That was one of the things we talked about. We haven't done it. Like we walked to the mailbox a couple of times, and that's like 3 houses over.
So my kids don't walk either.
See?
Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah, no.
They don't do that. Like, you know, the school, literally, their school that they were going to is less than a mile away.
Okay.
It's like 3/4 of a mile. And it's on they could walk a major street and get there.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, by 3rd grade, theoretically, they could be walking to and from school.
Mm-hmm.
Opening the door, getting in the house. Beyond me, as a mom, not letting them do it. My husband wouldn't let them do it.
Let's be honest. I think a lot of my strictness and the protectiveness that ended up happening came from being married to an African man.
Okay.
Because his makeup is totally different from ours. Like, so there was no neighborhood and ghetto people or any of that stuff. You know, it was totally different. So he had this, like, you know, Americans are crazy, so keep your kids in the house. Like, they will rip you and murder you.
Right, so
God
he
forbid.
has a
That ain't far from the
stereotype
truth.
about
See?
Black
Black
Americans.
Americans, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And just America in general. Like,
Just America in general. It's
he
just
thinks
not
it's
as
like
safe.
all the TV shows, all the crime and violence.
Menace to Society, boys.
Yeah,
in the Hood.
yeah. Yeah, well, it
Well,
Boys
the
in
kind
the
of
Hood
did-
was,
that was pretty realistic.
Boys in the Hood was pretty accurate.
Yes.
Because I'm sure we all know somebody who was minding their business and got shot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that See, I'm even separated from y'all.
Oh, yeah.
I knew Mexicans that got shot like that.
You're barely bougie. You,
Call me Whitley Gilbert.
compared to us, okay. Not even us, because you guys, Liz and Lea, you guys had a father in the home.
Oh,
So
that's
we-
totally different from us.
Yeah, so we didn't have a father in the home, which is a whole nother reason why our kids are bougier than we are, right? Because they're coming in and, like, I told my husband when I got pregnant, I was like, I have no idea how to raise a child in a partnership. I know how to do a benevolent dictatorship.
And hence,
I mean,
and hence our current
That's what you
situation.
said.
Right? Yep.
So one of the questions I had, since their kids are being raised in a different way than Liliana and Tamara grew up, I wanted to know if Tamara and Liliana's darlings have cultivated the same street sense that we had to have while navigating the streets. Now, it's not like we were out there doing dirt and stuff like that, but there was a sense that we had to have in order to get to school and to get back home. Now, we were in the hood, but not of the hood, but we constantly knew what time it is. And when I say knowing what time it is, I'm not talking about a watch or a clock. We basically just knew the pulse of everything that was going on around us. So let's start this section with a story from my sister talking about that exact sense on Planet Noun.
I just came back from New York, and while we were there, we spent some time in Harlem. So we came out of the, I think we were like in the Red Rooster or whatever, and we came outside, and then there were just like, one of the security guards was like, "Oh, they're back again," telling one of his homies that was in the restaurant. And so, just because of my background, I'm scanning like
who's back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Who's back? Right. So it's a group of guys over there, and it's a group of guys like in front of the restaurant. And then some guys like, "This is mine," and they're scuffling, trying to pick up some paper bags. And then all of a sudden, these guys come running, and all you heard was fist ahead. Somebody hit the ground, so you heard the
crack
head, hitting. So after a while, I'm watching, but after a while, I'm like, let me get up inside, because I don't know, somebody gonna pull something out and spray the area or whatever. So, like, it took a split second. I was nosy for a split second, but then that whole
But that's the whole
LA.
thing, and that's the stuff that I'm afraid of with these bougie ass kids that I'm raising.
Yeah,
because
like, they know when something is about to pop off.
No, they're I don't want to say common sense, because that's not what it is. But the common hood sense that you just kind of learn. It's like
your street sense.
Your street sense, or your poverty survival mode type thing. They don't have that.
No, because my kids would have stood there and been like, "Ooh, what happened?" And walk closer.
Got their phones, huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, no. You take a minute, you see what's going on. Okay. Because you could look at it, right, and see, okay, it's just two bums fighting. Ain't nothing going to happen. And walk right on past.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
But when it's...
This was dudes that possibly they
Yeah,
could pull something out. So
exactly.
I'm like,
and even to know which guys are going to pull something out and which guys are just going to be fighting with their fists. That's
a skill.
Yeah, that's a skill that you have. That's
I don't
a
have
learn.
that one. That's a next level hood.
Yes, it is.
Like reading people and just knowing when to be nosy.
Yeah.
And knowing when to kind of
back into the
But yeah, that's the next level. Wow, you guys were in the heart of LA during all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I know. I just had compassion in my heart at that moment when I really thought about how scared I was of LA from like 92. Well, no, I mean, I guess it stopped. So maybe like 90 to 93, I was afraid of LA. But then I started coming to Crenshaw.
That's because you
at
got,
like 14.
Yeah, that's because you started getting blinded by the ghetto fabulousness of it.
No, I started getting niggas hollering at me.
Yeah,
that were
blinded by the ghetto fabulous.
It wasn't about the ghetto fabulous of nothing. It was being in an area that black dudes could see me and respect the booty and having admiration for the booty. Like that's all for the whole thing. Like being in La Puente, the Mexican boys was not. I wasn't cute.
Yeah, they were.
Okay.
I wasn't cute. I come to LA with my friend. She was hood too. She was from Carson, and so
that's not even hood.
I mean, but we
that was where
I did that to her.
Okay,
whatever. But so whatever. So we would come to her daddy's house and like be with her cousins and stuff, and they were from like Carson and Compton, and that's when I was like, oh, this is where black folks are. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a ghetto fabulous. It was just my longing for always being around black people. I want to be around black folks. I don't care what the demographics are. I mean, not demographics, like the money. I don't care if everybody's broke or poor. The social economics. I don't care. All levels of black folks. I want us all to be together. Okay. Low-key isolated. Like, I'm not, just us. So I was like, oh, the black people are in L.A. I want to go to L.A. Mm-hmm. But not like during the times when y'all was there. Like, not like Nickerson Gardens. Not like the jungles. Mm-hmm. Not like I'm afraid to go to that park. Not like none of that.
We're all up in all.
Like the jungle, have people in the jungle.
Yeah, we
have the jungle. Okay, all of the jungle's not bad.
Right. I know now. But I'm thinking about the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, and we were 80s.
Was it 80s?
Yeah. It was
80s and
late 80s.
Late 80s.
Like early 90s.
Yeah, early 90s.
Yeah. So when I say ghetto fabulous, I'm saying like that encompasses the fact that black men are excited to see you, and that encompasses like the fun parts as well of being the fabulous of the ghetto, because the ghetto is not all shooting and violence and all the rest of it. It's also the like, hey, hey, you know, and the music and the cookouts and all the rest.
The camaraderie. Because that's when. So that was my thing. Is that's when I would come out to LA,
Right.
and that's what's missing with my kids because everybody with any kind of money or sense left LA and they moved out, right? And so now I have my children. We don't have a LA house to go back to for the neighborhood cookout. Like, we used to go to my grandma's house when she was on 102nd, and I knew all those niggas. And they were all my friends, and it wasn't a big deal. And I guess I do know, because as time passed, some of them did get murdered. And we'd come back over for the next couple of years, and I'm like, oh, he's not... They're like, no, he's gone. Or he joined Grape Street, so now...
He can't come over here.
Yeah, like all of these different things. But my kids don't get that.
No.
There's no, they get African stuff, though. We have African family that we go to, so they get a whole different experience from this. But that's still bougie as fuck, too, because, I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, his African family, and compare it to his American family, what did he say? Stark contrast.
Yeah.
Like, engineers, nurses, doctors, lawyers, oncologists, crackheads, truck drivers, alcoholics.
Oh, dang.
This is my side. Just hustling to survive, and maybe a couple of teachers, some service workers. So it's already a big difference there. So I think my family is the hood side. Maybe.
Oh, really?
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still bougie.
You can claim it. I'm fine.
So when you came out here to LA, I'd have to ask this. Did you ever have a Fox Hills Mall experience? You have dudes hollering at you there?
At the Fox Hills Mall?
Yes, because that was the place to be.
No, we were always in the Del Amo Mall.
Oh, okay.
Oh, see, yeah,
Okay.
that's not the same thing, though.
No, the Fox Hills Mall is where they shot Jackie Brown, right?
I don't even know.
I don't know.
I just remember LL Cool J was at the
I
Troop
remember
store,
that.
and that place was packed.
No, I remember the Fox Hills Mall, but I don't think I was allowed to go.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, we went there on the bus by ourselves all the time.
No, see?
Could
Could you imagine?
Yeah, bus passes.
See? And I had a
well
bus.
used.
I had a bus pass too. Could you imagine these kids with bus passes?
No, I don't even know.
Would they use them?
They still. If we don't walk, but they don't walk, right? But if we gave, I feel like sometimes if I just kind of got off my stuck-upness and was like, "Listen, you gonna have to figure it out. I'm not picking you up. This is a card. This can get you on the bus. There's 3 buses. Your phone can tell you what bus to take. You gonna have to just do it." Because that's how my mom would have done me. If she had to fucking work, it would just be like, I gotta work.
But listen, I'm going to tell you again, like I told you earlier. You can't just drop them off the side of the boat. You have got to give it to them in baby steps.
So what would those steps look? So say if you decide to do that, what would those steps look like?
Well, I don't plan, so let's see what Liliana says.
She gonna drop them off the side of the fucking.
They will not walk.
It looks
Or
like
they either will not walk, or you got a bus pass and starting Monday, you got to take the bus home. And
it's
they
gonna
be
look
like,
exactly like that.
oh my
That's
God.
Oh my God. Me personally, because I thought about this, of course, when we were applying to a school that was out of the way of either my husband's job or my job. And so it would have been, we would start the summer, and you and I are going to take the bus, right? And I'll show you where to get off, and we'll do that for a week or two, and only for the summer program that ends at noon. And then we'll go both ways with you, and then I'll go with you going, and you come home by yourself. And then you go by yourself and come home by yourself for the Thursday, Friday kind of thing. Of course I had a plan. Well, I don't know what the fuck. Why would you just drop them off? Well, right? So that would be my plan. And my husband drives, he was riding the bus for a while. He was commuting on the bus. And he was talking about this single mom who had a son. He was young, like kindergarten or something. And they would get on the bus together. And, it was this... They would sit up by the bus driver like you're supposed to. And so he recently got back started riding the bus again. And he says, that boy is riding the bus by himself now. And he's like in 6th grade.
Oh, wow.
But of course, because if you know how to ride the bus from kindergarten, by the time you get to 6th grade, you know exactly how to ride the bus. It's not a foreign thing.
Right.
You completely understand it. So, I mean.
My kids will probably never ride the bus. Let's just be fucking real. I'll figure out. Knowing my bougie ass, I'd call an Uber to pick them up.
Hop, skip, drive. That's the better one. That's the one
that
for the kids.
For kids?
Yeah, that's specifically for kids.
No, see,
Sometimes Uber drivers,
I would call the homie, the Uber driver, that's the homie.
Oh, okay. That works. Yeah.
Like so many of the
Go
homies.
to the area. Get on your ass right now.
Yeah, we calling you. No. But that's because I was that kid. I rode the bus since forever. I thought about the other day, like, things that my kids will probably never experience with me. They'll never have to push a car. So our poverty experiences were different in such different ways. Like, so I was in the La Puente, the suburbs.
Right.
We were poor. We were not well off. But so we would always have cars that my mom would get from random places, whether a smoker, at the auction, or somebody would go to the auction. There was more than one time that we would have to push the car off the freeway, where I'd be in the driver's seat at 10, 11, 12, and my mom is pushing the car.
To get us a little bit. When you say smoker, you mean like crackhead smoker?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I always mean smoker. That's what I mean by smoker.
Okay.
That's the only thing I think of. Yeah, when I think of smoker, just a crackhead.
Okay.
There's a lot of smokers in my family. But so
we got drunks.
We have both. Amen. But not to sidetrack the conversation, I've been doing some like ancestral work and realizing that you can have that ancestral trauma of addiction is so strong, and it is so real. And if you can take any time to heal your ancestral trauma, it's almost deeper than trying to heal childhood trauma.
Wow.
Because if your ancestors' traumas are healed, and it's easier to heal their traumas, and now they're guiding you with not as much trauma and bullshit around them. They're able to just focus. So that's just wanted to say that.
Oh.
Liliana be like, oh my God.
You
and your ancestors.
I gotta pray after this.
Your ancestors will lead you in prayer.
They'll be there too. They'll be there too. You will be in prayer all together.
Okay, y'all, so here's a question. Whose kids are more bougie? Also, Tamara tells us about some mind-blowing experiences that she has through her children. And this is where things got a little bit teary-eyed. And we also talk about, compared to how Liliana grew up, how Liliana's kids are like next level bougie. More of our conversation with Liliana and Tamara of Barely Bougie Mamas and my sister Lea on Planet Noun.
So let's talk about some of the differences in activities that your children. Number one, your kids got to go to Europe. Family vacation. Okay, so that's one. But
so that's bougie. That's bougie.
Yeah.
But Liliana got the bougie. Liliana got the bougie kids.
Okay. Let's talk about
Let's be real.
Kids.
Wait a minute.
What instruments do your kids play, Liliana?
Well, that
Just is a clear question.
Cello.
Clarinet, and viola.
Yes.
If that ain't some bougie shit, tell me that's some bougie shit.
Okay, so this is the thing. You might have started off a little higher bougie, but I'm taking it to the next level with my kids.
Absolutely, you are.
When it
Yes,
comes
you
to
are.
music, I see nothing wrong. Like, it's not bougie to me. It's like,
You're like, what is it?
It's an essential.
yeah.
It's essential.
No, it is.
It's like, we had like piano lessons?
We had
just a little
piano.
bit, but I never stuck with it. But we mainly stuck with like choir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, and that's the thing too that I'm just acknowledging in this conversation a lot. You guys grew up in the hood, but that was not what you were.
Right.
If that
You're
makes
not
sense.
of the hood,
Right.
yeah.
You're not
Right.
of the hood. Whereas I wasn't in the hood, but everything about our life was hood style. I didn't take no class. There was no ballet. There was no gymnastics. There was no piano lesson. Okay. I did what the school freaking offered. So the school offered choir in the 6th grade. I joined the choir. And I was able to do everything that the school did with the choir. My first trip to Disneyland, my first trip to Knoxbury Farm, all of that shit was with the choir. My first time out of California, with the school. All of those things are with school. So my kids, when I say they're having a totally different experience, this is like magical to me. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, wait, you were in gymnastics for freaking 6, 8, 9 weeks, 9 months. Like, we kept paying that. It was a part of our routine to
Right.
take you there. That never happened for me.
It's like these are things that the activities that your kids are in, you need resources.
Yeah.
And you need funds, uniforms, all sorts of things, equipment.
Period. Time.
Yeah.
You need time.
You need time.
My mother, she worked from 7:30 to 4:30. We got to school. No, she worked from 8 to 4:30. We got to school at 7:45. No matter what time the school fucking started, we were there at 7:45
Because she had to be to work.
because she had to be to work, and we were there until 4:45 because she had to be to work, and So if you just plain math, there was no time for anything else besides church, which was
All the time in the world.
So between work and church, that was it. That's pretty much what we did. So the fact that my kids are getting private cello lessons, private viola lessons, private clarinet lessons, that they are in the Pasadena Youth Orchestra, that they are in swim, that they are in gymnastics, that they got to try capoeira, that they got to try tennis lessons, that they got to try all of these things is just completely outside of the norm of how I was raised, which is part of why I'm concerned about them.
Does it blow your mind though that you're able to even do it, or that your kids are even experiencing that?
Does it blow my mind? No.
Okay, it blows my mind constantly. When my son got in, this is not even a poverty thing or a bougie thing, but my son got into gate. I was like,
the gifted and talented educator.
I was like, my son's in gate. I was like, yo, he's in gate. That was a lot to me because I struggled through every grade. I made it through school with personality and jokes and just being there.
Right.
And so for him to get that, I was like, wow. Yeah, the European trip, I cried constantly on that trip because I did that. From my mother being on and off crack, and I got my kids to fucking Europe. Psst, you low-key can't tell me much. So no, you can't tell me much. Not even low-key. You can't tell me much because I'm so proud of myself.
Right.
So even if this never takes a piano class or none of that shit, your life is amazing because both of your parents are sober and they're
yeah.
That could be the hard stop. They're both sober and there and want to give you experiences. Right. So we may not have gotten to the different lessons and things like that because I just leveled up last year. It was a big old level up thing. I was right there with Sierra. But and so I wasn't able to, they don't have all these big experiences as far as classes and stuff, but I'm just blown away that I could even think about it. I want to get them a private tutor to come to the house and help them with reading. And I was like, wow. And I'm looking at it, and I was like, I can afford this.
Right.
Wow. I can afford this. And there was I remember when I needed help, and that just seemed so far-fetched. My mom didn't even look, because she was like, I don't know. I can't pay nobody, because I'm getting help on my rent. We were the kind of family that we were on Section 8, so our rent was really low in the suburbs. We would go to churches sometimes to get assistance with power bills and electric bills. And since my brother is so much older than me, it would just be me and my mom. So we would go to churches and get food boxes and free food to help you for the week. So knowing that was my experience and that my kids say shit like, I don't want rice and chicken. Can we have Panda? And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, my kids did that to me. One time they was like, can we go to Saladang's? Which is a really fancy Thai restaurant here in Pasadena.
I was about to say, thank you for explaining. Because
they're like, yeah, let's go to Saladang's. And I'm like, these bitches talk about Saladang's. I used to be we used to be me and my brother and my sister be like, we send the baby. We go ask if we could go to McDonald's.
McDonald's too.
Because it's the 16th and she got paid yesterday. So go ask if we can go to McDonald's. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
We would send the baby. So yeah, when you put it like that, no, I'm still not surprised that
Bitch. She was like, I've been knew this.
You know what?
Maybe it's because you went to Howard.
That's probably why. No.
But you've always had a plan, though.
No, I was going to say.
Has she always had a plan?
I have always had. My plan, I think it was probably the first time, like, I know when it was. So this is my turn to cry, but I ain't going to cry because I'm that kind of bitch.
Who said I cried? I didn't sound like I cried. You don't be crying.
So one Christmas, I wanted a Betsy Wetsy doll. And I circled it in the Kmart circular, and I showed it to my mother, and she was like, all right, well, and I showed it like in November, because I know when the paydays are, right? And I was like, and I was probably in 3rd or 4th grade, and that was the doll I wanted. That's all I wanted. And so Christmas morning came, and I opened it up, and it was the Betsy Wetsy doll. Wow. But my mother said, don't open that. I can't. We got to take it back. So it sat on the fucking couch in the container, all like that, like, because she had to take it back. Right? But who knows what happened? Power bill came in, I don't know. And then my uncle came, who has a PhD and, is educated and had a really good job, came, and he was like, why is this doll still here like this? And she was like, because I got to take it back. He was like, let the child open the damn, he gave her the money or whatever. First of all, my mother was too proud to ask, because she could have probably asked my uncle for the money to start with. But, that my uncle was gracious enough to give her the money and able to give her the money. At that point in my life, I was like, I am not going to live like this. Period. Like, this is not going to be me.
Wow, you said that was 3rd grade?
3rd or 4th grade, yeah. I was like,
Yo, and so I think, as much as I'm trying to not be, because you can't help it, right? If you grew up, no, you can't help it. I don't want to say you can't help it. I'm working on helping it. If you grow up poor, and you grow up impoverished, your thought process is different. You have to fix your fucking thought process.
Yes.
And raising children, unconsciously, you'll put your poverty mindset on them, and you trying to level up.
Right.
Just thinking about my baby, she's telling me how much things cost, and that's expensive, and I'm like, what do you know what expensive is? You're 7.
Right.
You shouldn't even, but in the 7 years that she's been here, she's heard me say, this is expensive. I'm not getting that. Why are we going to do this? She said to me the other day, she was like, well, usually buy the cheapest one. And I was like, I buy, are you saying I'm cheap? You saying I buy cheap shit? That's what you're saying? That's what you're saying? And then she switched and she was like, no, I'm not like saying you're cheap. I'm just saying that you like to save for other stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's how we went to Europe.
That's your bougie baby trying to rephrase
what the fuck she was saying. Is her mama buy her, like, how people go and buy liquor and they be like, there's the top shelf, then there's the bottom shelf. I did the bottom shelf. I'm like, it's all the same. It's all the same.
That's what you tell yourself. No, good.
It's not different. I'm finding out now that I've leveled up, because what I did is I doubled my income in 13 months. Awesome. So it's all still really new, right? So I'm used to getting what I can afford, which would be like the basics. Now I'm like, if I got a tablet now, would I want it to have more space? I guess so.
Right.
Would I want it to have a forward-facing camera or a better camera? I guess so.
Right.
But I want to figure out how to break my kids from even having the little bit that I'm passing down to them, because I'm trying to change my whole mindset. And it all takes time, but I don't want to make myself better and then I have 2 little humans that
still poverty.
Yeah.
Poverty mindset.
At least you recognize it.
Right.
Well, because one of the things that I recognize is that the same kind of cheap, like going shopping, I don't know where I read it somewhere, because, I've been doing research and planning for a while now.
Years upon years.
Yes. But instead of saying, like, no, we can't afford it, no, it's not in the budget, right? Mm-hmm. So I've heard them say that. Like, is this in the budget, mommy? Which is exactly opposite of a poverty mindset, right? Because we have the finite amount of money, and we have decided how we're going to spend it. Yes. And this
is what we spend on groceries. This is what we spend on clothing. Yeah.
Exactly. Which, I mean, again, I probably still tell them, no, that's too fucking expensive. Well, I don't cuss at my kids, but that's too expensive.
All the cussing you do, you're able to not cuss in front of your children.
I didn't say in front of my children. I said at my kids.
Oh.
There's a difference.
So if you say, this is too fucking expensive, is
I'm
that
usually
cussing?
talking to an adult.
So if you said that to a kid, that's cussing at them? Or
Yeah.
That is?
Yeah. Because
Like if you're speaking directly to
yeah,
them.
if I'm speaking directly to them, I don't cuss.
But if I were there and we're talking,
tell us
then she
that.
would say it to me.
I get it.
Yeah.
My current bullshit is that I'll be like, what the f... That's how I say it. Because I'll come in and I'll see, I'm like, what the fuck? You guys. I told you I'll censor it, but I'll be mad.
So, in the final part of this first collaboration episode, here's what you can expect from the Barely Bougie Mamas podcast. Now, if this is the first time you've heard of them, they have several episodes already released, about 12 of them. I think it's going to be 13, including this one. So let's wrap up our chat with Liliana and Tamara of Barely Bougie Mamas, also joined by my sister Lea, right here on Planet Noun.
So, what can people expect from Barely Bougie Mamas?
So you could probably expect something similar to what you just heard here, where we discuss how we started and how we plan to change. Because I think part of the Barely Bougie Mama mindset is, or not even mindset, but is to change our poverty mindset for our children, right? And we do a little bit of kiki-ing. We try.
Yeah. It's a lot of, I've been trying to figure it out myself because it was one of those things where I just know I like to talk. I have good stories. Not like I have, that's so stuck up.
You know what you know about yourself.
But I mean, about myself, I tell good stories. I enjoy talking and I enjoy telling the stories and I like the sound of my voice. So when Liliana asked me, I was like, okay. And I was like, but do I want to focus on me being a mother? Because I was in that place. Am I always a mom? What about me? What about Tamara as a person?
Oh my God.
I do this and I do that. So it feels like the podcast is us kind of talking about our kids, our children. I hate to say kids. Us talking about our children and like how we came to whatever situation that we're in, you know? And when Liliana, you have to listen to the first episode. Is that the first one, the expectations? No.
That's the second one.
The second one, expectations, I think is a very telltale of the two people that you're going to be listening to. And coming into our podcast is just because you want to hear the stark contrast. Yeah. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's the stark contrast between Liliana and I and the fact that we both still represent black women. Mm-hmm. You know, we both still represent the non-stereotype. We both represent married black women that are married to black men. We have our children by one man. We've lived in the house with this man and our children only. Neither of us have been divorced or separated, and as far as I know, neither of us have been physically abused or nothing like that. Right? You know, I ain't had no issues. I mean,
y'all ain't had to bail each other out.
We ain't had to bail each other out. There's no alcoholism. Mm-hmm. There's no drug addiction. I mean, so like
it's just regular people.
And black women don't get a fucking chance to be regular.
Right. Can you say that again for the people?
Black women do not get the opportunity to be regular in this country. Or maybe I don't know, but in this country for sure.
Even like the black girl magic. Why we gotta be fucking magical? Why can't we just be black girls?
Well, I mean, we can go further on this because that black girl magic stuff, since you thought about it, it also goes back to the super, what did Clinton say about the black man?
Oh, the super predator.
The super predator. Because, you know, it's just so strong.
Right.
They're so big. Right. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like a big, what is not contrast? What's the word I'm looking for, Liliana? The whole thing of us having to be magic because they feel that black girls are so, you know, they hate themselves so much. And no, I don't hate me. Motherfucker, you hate me. Right. You hate my beautiful brown skin. You hate my thick thighs and my booty. You hate it.
And you hate my skinny self and my flat ass, too.
I don't know those. I can only speak for self.
Right.
I can speak for self.
Right. This is not that.
Like, look, I'm just now getting boobs I like.
Right.
Just now.
But see, I mean, I guess that's a whole other podcast in itself,
Right,
right? Like to
right.
talk about that. But that's the thing is that for black girls, so number one, once you get a certain age, you don't get accepted. I'm not allowed to be a girl anymore. I'm not allowed to be a black girl. Yeah. I'm a black mother. I'm a black wife. I'm a black professional.
Right.
But most of the time, I'm really just a black girl. When I'm in my car and I'm listening to Mary or Meg the Stallion, I'm still a black girl. Mm-hmm. And I think that our podcast gives you a chance to just be like, oh, okay, black girls are regular.
Right.
It's the same fucking things that any other person goes through.
It's a human experience.
It's a human experience. And look at that. Black girls are human.
Right. Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Who would have thunk it?
How did that happen? Yeah. I like our podcast.
Thanks for listening to Planet Noun, where it's all about the people, places, things, and ideas that teach us, prompt us to make a difference, and do more with what life presents. You've been listening to the hosts of the new podcast, Barely Bougie Mamas, with Liliana and Tamara. It's about two moms who grew up in poverty, but they've crafted lives for themselves and their kids that are totally different from their own upbringings. And it's also about the funnies and concerns that stem from those differences. Now, this is the first cross-promotion episode for both of our shows, and there's another one that's coming up next week, a week from today, next Thursday. A theme Barely Bougie Mamas wanted to address, and it's a theme that my sister and I live, the role that unmarried and childless aunties play in family life. Honey, we knows about that. Now, get all social media info about Barely Bougie Mamas at planetnoun.com, as well as a link to their show on Anchor FM. I'm Liz Anderson, host of the Planet Noun podcast. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're also on SoundCloud. And please stop by Apple Podcasts and rate the show. Thanks again for stopping by. And remember, next week, another cross episode with Barely Bougie Mamas. Until then, take care.